Some great insights. And now turning to parents of teens or preteens. You guys listen up, because Kevin here has been searching for answers on the best way to approach the topic of smartphones for your kids.
Yeah, that's right. A little bit of research, a talk with an expert in psychology, and a trip to the streets of New York. Hopefully it can help paint a broad picture of this sensitive topic and help you make an informed decision that's best for your family. Take a look. These devices, smartphones, can be invaluable for tweens, those 8 to 12, and teens when it comes to navigating the subway, staying safe when they start driving and there's a mishap, and staying in the loop socially. They can give young kids the chance to develop digital literacy in the information and technology age and serve as a source of entertainment and even help them to become more creative. But there are significant risks for young people in cities and elsewhere surrounding the use of these smartphones. We hear more on this from an expert. We're joined now by Maura Francis, clinical psychology postdoctoral fellow at the Manhattan Psychology Group. It's great to speak with you, Maura.
Yeah, it's great to speak with you too, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Parents face a number of challenges, as you know, when deciding whether or not to give their smartphones to their children. The question is, do the risks outweigh the benefits? I mean, the risks are cyberbullying, inappropriate texting, possibly with a predator, and also it becoming a source of too many distractions. So do the connectedness and the independence outweigh this?
You know, I think it's a little bit of a balance. It's kind of like a black and white perspective. So having too little of something could be a bad thing, but also having too much of something can also be a bad thing. So I think it's about finding that middle ground about what works for the child, the teen, and the parent.
That is a really balanced perspective that you bring in. And some of the snares of these smartphones are that there's a tendency for these kids to do what's called phubbing, or ignoring others when they're using their phones, and that harms their face-to-face interactions, and as well as the threat of pornography's temptation and even becoming addicted to these devices. So how can parents make informed decisions considering this?
Yeah, for sure. I think the most important thing is to set expectations. So sometimes when parents introduce technology devices to their kids, it's kind of like, all right, here it is, like, do whatever you want. And then as things kind of happen along time, that's when they start to address things. And so sometimes that can be really hard to kind of go backwards and say, like, this is something that we need to have a discussion about. I think having those discussions first would be really beneficial, and then kind of setting the stage up for, what is the expectations around communicating with your friends versus being on certain apps, and then also having privacy settings to monitor their activity and the content that they're consuming.
That's excellent insight, Maura. And now we're going to hear some perspectives from the public in the Big Apple.
I mean, I personally think it's 16 or when they're driving is the best time. My kids have one because they worked for one, but they can only do it if they're not with me on an activity. I don't think before middle school, I don't think that's reasonable for a child to have it. And I don't think they should have unlimited access to the internet because they're not mature enough to handle that.
And Lisa, how do you regulate your child's cell phone and smartphone use?
That's funny. I've learned to lock everything in my closet, quite honestly, with a key. And they get it when they earn it by doing chores, doing schoolwork, being outside, or if they need it, I will get it with my key.
And do you think that the state should be involved in regulating this?
No, I mean, that would make it a different kind of country. I don't think that should happen. I think parents really have their own choice what they do with their children. I do wish there was less, peer pressure. That's a really difficult thing. And then in the schools, I don't think they should bring it into the school, but it's too complicated to have the state involved, I think.
It could be a brain drain. It could be a time drain. Kids can get pretty lazy and live in a virtual world instead of getting out and interacting. And, no better place to really live in the real world than New York City. That's why we brought them out here from California to see it.
I got my first smartphone when I was probably 14 maybe. I think it's been good because being able to keep in touch with family and friends has been really important, especially because I'm from Canada, so being in New York and taking trips down here has been really nice to be able to kind of take pictures and let people know what's going on in my life. So yeah, that's been pretty big for me.
How else has it helped you?
I don't know, kind of keeping up with the news, because I'm a big sports guy, so loves following hockey or football and stuff, seeing my favorite team, seeing how they're doing this week in sports, and kind of, for that, for sure.
Thank you so much for your time, Jameson.
So much, yeah.
And while we consider all of the benefits to smartphones, there is an NIH publication that shows evidence of a connection between increased use in smartphones among youth and more thoughts of mental distress, suicide, and self-harm. And those are particularly the case in young girls.